What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, shout out once again to the brother Brendan Olson for showing love to the channel with the donation via the Cash App. Salute to you for showing love once again. So, the question I got is, and like I said before, these videos are always subjective. There's no right or wrong answers. It's just opinion. You're entitled to your opinion as well. And please give your opinion in the comment section. He wanted to get my opinion on what I think would have happened if Nikola Jokic had teamed up with Russell Westbrook when Russell Westbrook was in his prime. Let's say let's go with the 2018 version of Russell Westbrook. Or maybe even the 2017 version of Russell Westbrook. Let's go with that. The MVP version of Russell Westbrook. How far more enhanced would this Denver Nuggets team be? Now, we all know, those of us who've been following the Denver Nuggets this year, that despite the slow start, 11-10 start, Russell Westbrook and Nikola Jokic have been like peanut butter and jelly on the basketball court. I mean, they just go together very well. And Nikola Jokic has flourished playing Russell Westbrook and vice versa. So far this season, Nikola Jokic, who's already won 3 league MVPs, is on pace to possibly win his 4th league MVP. He's averaged through 31 games, 31.5 points, which I believe is second in the NBA scoring behind Giannis. He's averaged 13 rebounds and 9.7 assists. So he's just a hair behind averaging a triple-double. If he did so, he would be only the 3rd player in the history of the NBA to do this. The only other ones to average a triple-double that we know of, at least, are Oscar Robertson, 1961-62, and Russell Westbrook. He did it 4 different times in his career. I strongly suspect, though, that Will Chamberlain averaged a triple-double. Probably earlier on in his career with the Warriors, maybe his rookie year, I would surmise, in blocks. Because we already saw that during a 113-game span with the Sixers, the famed statistician, I think his name was Harvey Pollack, noted that Wilt averaged 8.8 blocks during that span. So it stands to reason that during the earlier part of his career, when he was even younger and lighter and more active in trying to go for blocks, that he probably averaged a triple-double with blocks, which would have been phenomenal. But anyway, I don't want to get off track too much. They flourished, as I said before. Jokic is shooting 55% from the floor, 47% from downtown, 81% from the free throw line, a PR rating of 32.3. His career PR rating is 28.3, the highest in the history of the NBA. He's having, by all standards, a MVP season. Russell Westbrook is having a resurgent year of his own. Through 34 games, he's averaging 12 points, 4.7 rebounds, 6.6 assists. He's shooting 45.4% from the floor, which is his highest field goal percentage for a season since 2019-20. He was playing with the Rockets. He's shooting about 31%, I believe, from downtown. 3-pointers have never been his forte. 32% actually. 63% from the free throw line. PR rating of 16, which is very good considering that he's a role player. but it's been more of an impact on ways that you can't measure that he's helped the Denver Nuggets. He's helped to shore up their bench. These numbers are also masking how well he's played since that struggle, probably the first 8 or so games of the NBA at the start of the year. So these numbers are kind of masking how well he's played since, I'd say, mid-November. Also, you can't shortchange Russ as far as the impact he's made on the defensive end. Russell Westbrook was never noted as a great defender, though he was a good defender in college. But you could see the way that he plays with the energy, the physicality, a lot of the hustle, that were natural intangibles needed to be a good defensive player. And he's helped to a certain extent, at least on the defensive end, make up for the loss of KCP. Because KCP going to Orlando definitely hurt definitely hurt Denver on the defensive end. Russ has helped to alleviate that. Russ also brings veteran leadership. And Russ is also, because of the fact that when you're playing with Russell Westbrook, he pushes the pace, he speeds up the pace. Therefore, he gives you, especially in transition sequences, opportunities to score relatively easy buckets. So he's helping them offensively through his facilitating, not necessarily being a great shooter, but they don't really look at him for that anymore. That's not what he's about really in this stage of his career. He's more of a facilitator, defender, hustle, rebounder, occasional, clutch bucket maker. That's what Russell Westbrook is at this point in his career. Now, if you're talking about prime Russell Westbrook, we got to create some rules here. In this scenario, I'm assuming that what we're not talking about is putting Jokic back to 2018, that version of Jokic with prime Russ, but somehow having Russell being 7 to 8 years younger. Now, if that's the case, it's not as smooth as peanut butter and jelly in this scenario, because I would assume also that Russ would be accustomed to playing as the man, playing as a superstar. So I would surmise that he wouldn't have a tougher adjustment being a sidekick all of a sudden. That was one of Russ's biggest adjustments with the Lakers, and he struggled because he wasn't used to playing in that role. Even when he was playing with, Kevin Durant, and, even though the media looked at him as a sidekick, Russ saw himself still as a duo of equals with Kevin Durant, right? And I do wonder if you're talking about a Russell Westbrook who's closer to his prime or in his absolute prime, he might struggle a bit adjusting to being in a 6-man role or complementary or just a role player in general, mentally at an age 26 or 27, as opposed to a player that's 36 years of age. But this is one thing I've said about Russell Westbrook. First of all, I don't think he was ever a selfish guy. Ever. Even when people thought that he was just a stat padder and all that, which is incredulous, considering we see what we see in LA. People accuse Russ of being that. Russ was doing what he had to do, what he thought would be best to help the team. And when you look at the fact that throughout his career, in 75% of the games or so, 74, 75% of the games in which he had a triple-double, his team has won, which is a much higher percentage than his overall win percentage in his career, indicates that when Russ is playing the way he's playing, which, by the way, his triple-doubles I always thought was a byproduct of the way he played. He played hard. Early in his career, he did make a lot of mistakes as far as ball handling. Sometimes, he would act on instinct too much, maybe. Sometimes you could argue maybe he thought too much of his ability, sometimes playing hero ball, whatever. But I thought that just his natural way of playing, pushing the tempo, feeding the big man. Big men's a big man, a center's gonna thrive playing with Russ. They just are. The history shows that. You know what I'm saying? Big men thrive playing with Russell Westbrook. But the other opposite star always thrives playing with Russell Westbrook too. Okay? And I can just go through the list. Kevin Durant was a 4-time scoring champion. Kevin Durant was an MVP playing with Russell Westbrook. Then, look, when he played with Paul George, that's the best Paul George ever looked at by far in his career in the 2018-19 season playing Russell Westbrook. That's before he suffered the injury. Paul George, who's become something of almost a joke now. People forget at one point in time before the injuries, the Thunder, who did not have the best the best roster in the NBA, they were third in the Western Conference before Paul George got hurt. Paul George was averaging something like 28 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. He was a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. If I remember correctly, I think he was like the January 2019 Player of the Month or something like that before the injuries. He was playing phenomenal basketball. Then when Russ played with the Rockets, that's the last time James Harden looked like the James Harden of old, averaging 34 points per game, playing alongside Russell Westbrook. Then he goes to Washington. Bradley Beal has the best season of his career, averaging a career-high 31 points per night. Then he goes to the Lakers, even though they only go 33 and 49 on the year. LeBron James averages 30-plus points per game that year. The second best scoring year of his career at the advanced age of, I think he was like 37 or so. 37, 38. Then he plays alongside Kawhi Leonard. But when Kawhi Leonard is actually healthy, Kawhi's playing some of the best basketball of his career before he gets hurt inevitably again. And now he's playing with Nikola Jokic, and look, Nikola Jokic is having the best season of his career. It's a trend with him. He truly makes players around him better. In particular centers. Steven Adams looked like, at times, a semi-all-star playing with Russell Westbrook. When he was playing with AD during that stretch when LeBron was hurt, AD was the best player in the league. One of them games, I think AD dropped 55 points against the Wizards, like everybody else. And look at Nikola Jokic. Now, if this is a younger Russell Westbrook, I think that Russ would be a little bit more ball dominant than he is now. I know now he alleviates pressure off of Jokic from time to time. But I think that Russ would have the ball a little bit more in his hands. I think Russ would score a little more. His efficiency would probably be a little bit lower, probably around the 43% range. 3-point percentage would still be not really great, 29 to 31%. He's just not a good 3-point shooter. That's not his game. He'd be more explosive, more dynamic in many ways. Dunking the ball, even more dangerous in transition, quicker. I think he would probably lead the league in steals. Now I'm not saying he'd be defense player of the year, because leading the league in steals is not necessarily. It doesn't correlate with a guy being a lockdown defender. I mean, Chris Paul has led the league in steals 6 times. He's not a lockdown defender, but he is good at getting to the passing lanes. He had quick hands too, Chris Paul. Russell Westbrook is very good at getting the passing lanes and reading the floor and reading the defenses. And I think he would probably be amongst the leaders of not leading the league in steals. I think Russ would probably average not quite a triple-double playing with Nikola Jokic, because Nikola Jokic is a very good rebounder. I think Russ probably would average, if he really truly bought into playing with Nikola Jokic and Jokic is playing the way he's playing now, Russ probably averaged like 21, maybe 7.5 rebounds, maybe 9 assists. And I think Jokic would probably average more around 26 or something. 26, I give him 14 and 8, something along those lines. Something along those lines, round it out a little bit. If I had to just throw numbers out there, I do think these guys would mesh well. And if this was a prime Russell Westbrook, he'd be even better. They'd be even better because Russ would be even more dynamic as a scorer. Um, and another thing I remember about Russ too is when he was younger, his mid-range jumper just seemed a little more consistent. Uh, a little bit more consistent. His form seemed better. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much how I look at it. I just think that Russ would have to dial things back a bit and let Nikola Jokic be Nikola Jokic. But Nikola Jokic would be more efficient, um, playing playing off of Russ, not having as much of the pressure as far as having to take shots. Because I think Jokic is averaging by far career high in shot attempts. Let's see. I think he's averaging like 21, 22 shots a night. Yeah, he's averaging about 22 shots a night, which is by far the highest of his career. The highest previously was last year at 17.9 shot attempts. This year, like I said, he's at 21.7. A lot of that has to do with the fact that before they inserted Russ into the starting lineup, Mike Malone, um, you know, Jokic wasn't getting a lot of help offensively from a lot of different guys. Carl Braun, that's his name, right? Or Braun, whatever his name is. I just call him Braun. We forgetting what his first name is, but the white boy that basically replaced KCP. He can score, but he's not a good defender. And Jamal Murray, to me, I guess he's okay, but they truly miss some of those hustle guys they've lost. Brown from a couple years ago, KCP. They missed some of the shooting they've had before in the past. The Nuggets were amongst the best shooting teams in the NBA, and they were at least a good, decent defensive team. They took a step back with the loss of KCP, man. And Russ kind of helped to fill that void. But earlier, saying he was helping to shore up their bench. But man, at the starting lineup, they were missing something. Jamal Murray has been inconsistent. Hell, I'm now convinced that Jamal Murray is past his prime. He's not old, but it's just I think the injuries are taking their toll. And I think one of the best things Mike Malone did was insert Russell Westbrook into the starting lineup in certain instances. I think it need to be a permanent change, in my opinion. But man, could you imagine if Russ was at point for this team and maybe Jamal Murray was moved to the off guard position? I think that they'd be a much better team. I think they would be phenomenal. Or better yet, well, no, actually, I don't think that would work because I don't think he would choose to want to be on the bench. But man, if Jamal Murray was like in the 6-man role, and maybe Braun actually in the starting lineup. But this ain't 2K. These guys have egos. Jamal Murray has always been considered something of a borderline star. So I don't know about that, But yeah, and just in general, though, I think that Nikola Jokic has proven that Russell Westbrook wasn't the problem in LA. He's proven that once and for all. Because, Nikola Jokic is the one that talked management into going after Russ. He saw the value that Russell Westbrook had that other fan bases somehow didn't see. And, that's why these other franchises are jokes. But the Denver Nuggets have actually won a championship. And if they can right things to the way they were, maybe they can be in contention again. But yeah, man, if Russ was in his prime, they probably would be contenders for the NBA Finals. They probably would be. I still get the feeling like they're like a piece away from being a championship team, even with a prime Russ. But I think that they probably would be a perennial 55 or so win team, 55 to 60 win team, technically you could say they could have won championship, but if you have Nikola Jokic, excuse me, if you got Nikola Jokic in his absolute prime and Russell Westbrook, 2 MVP winners, you can't ask for anything else, really. You really can't ask for anything else. You got Jamal Murray, who's an all-star level player. Man, I mean that team will be absolutely ridiculous. That team would be dangerous in the half court and full court situation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's how I see that. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so what you guys think?